What's going on, everybody? King of Dragons 5000 here, coming at you with another figure review. Today I'll be having a look at the McFarlane Toys Batman The Dark Knight Returns Armored Batman. And so here we have Armored Batman posed and out of the packaging. Before we take a look at the figure, let's actually run through his accessories really fast. Batman does come with two sets of hands. We do get a trigger finger right hand and a fist left hand, and then we get a pair of clenching hands. And then of course we do get the McFarlane display stand along with Armored Batman, but other than that we don't get anything else. Unfortunately, because of the Warner Brothers no gun policy, he doesn't even get his Sonic Disruptor, which it's not even an actual gun, so yeah, don't know the mindset behind that. But anyway, with that out of the way, guys, let's actually have a closer look at the Armored Batman. And so here we have a closer look at Armored Batman, and I'm not gonna lie to you guys, The Dark Knight Returns is one of my favorite graphic novels in the history of all mankind, and unfortunately I'm not really feeling this figure, and that's just me personally. It might be that I'm one of those Dark Knight Returns purists where I'm used to seeing Batman in armor one way, that this just, it doesn't work for me, to be quite honest, and I'll go over that right now. It's not a bad figure by any stretch of the imagination. I really do like what McFarlane was trying to do here. It's supposed to be a more realistic rendition of the Armored Batman from The Dark Knight Returns, kind of like how Batman vs. Superman was, but I honestly would have preferred a Batman vs. Superman Armored Batman as opposed to a McFarlane style Frank Miller comic book art, if that makes any sense. And this is one thing that bothers me. When it came to Greg Capullo, McFarlane was very keen on keeping the figure looking like the artwork. And this one, I don't know why it's so drastically different from what was originally designed by Frank Miller. And I think I have an issue with that because Greg Capullo's stuff looks great in action figure form, and so does Frank Miller's work. But this Batman, I think it kind of misses the mark. Now, I do like the panel lining. The helmet is one of the best parts of this figure. It looks very good, and it does look like something Batman would wear if he's in a suit of armor, so that is very good. I do like this helmet. I do like the fact that he has these yellow eyes, or the white eyes piercing through the gunmetal, which does look really good. Again, it has a lot of nice little panel lining, but there's a lot of contrast here. If you take a look at his armor, his suit of armor here, it looks forged. It looks like it's just sheets of metal made to make a chest piece, whereas the helmet looks like actual armor, and that's something I really have a hard time getting my mind around. We have this raw looking metal versus the sleek look of the helmet. The head is actually too small to be the Dark Knight Returns Batman, and this is supposed to be a more realistic take on the figure, I'm guessing. One thing I do love, and this makes me wish that this was a Batman vs. Superman Armored Batman, is the cape. The cape is beautiful. I love the sculpted detailing here on this cape. It is so well done all the way down to the pleats. It looks like a very thick and heavy material, and that's something I really do appreciate, the work and craftsmanship that went into this. It looks really good, and I don't want to take anything away from the figure. It is a beautifully sculpted figure, and it looks fantastic. I give this sculpt an A+, to be quite honest, because there's a lot of details here that you really don't expect to see. Like, for example, we do have some panel lining here on his pauldron right here. Then we do have his arm guards right there. And then we have some exposed undersuit right there, which I do remember that Batman did have some exposed parts of his undersuit, but I think that's a little bit too much. And then we do have his gauntlets, which are nice, big, bulking, hulking gauntlets. And then we have these really thick gloves, almost like welder's gloves, and it does look really good. And that is the same for both sides. Now, unfortunately, he only comes with one fist and one trigger hand, and he doesn't even come with a Sonic Disruptor, and that is so upsetting that Warner Brothers omitted that from every Dark Knight Returns figure that is being produced, and that no guns policy is really starting to get on my nerves. But yeah, overall, I do like the sculpt work on here. Now, right here I do have a little bit of an issue where we have his armor meeting his suit. This is supposed to be undersuit, so I don't know why that is sculpted to match the armor plating that we have right here, and that does bother me. Now, you can hide it just by using that articulation, but just be aware that if you do move the figure at any point, you'll be able to see that, and I'm not a fan of that. You can see he does have his utility belt right here with the pouches looking really good. Then we do go on to the bat booty right there. As you can see, lovely texture, really loving the texture here on the undersuit, but like I said, I think it's too much. Yeah, it seems like it's a little bit too exposed, especially because this Batman is supposed to be wide and stocky, but it's still a really nice look. Now, this is where the modernization and the old school kind of mesh together, where we have his thigh guards, as you can see. It still carries on that worn metal look, where his gauntlets don't really carry that look, and neither does his pauldrons. If McFarlane had gone all the way with the worn metal look throughout the entire thing, I think this would look a little bit better. In my honest opinion, I'm not a fan of the worn metal, the smooth metal, the high-tech look for the suit. It just seems like it's just a hodgepodge of ideas that just didn't land properly. Again, if you were to take everything and make it look like this worn metal, I think I would like this figure a little bit more. But there's so many things about this figure that I like, but some things that I don't like, and I will get more into that in articulation, because that is a huge thing that I do need to talk about. One thing I do like is that he kept the way the boots are designed with these really thick spikes and treads, and really good, and he actually got functioning toe joints out of that, so yeah, really liking that. It's a really fantastic design. There was a lot of inspiration, obviously, from the Frank Miller comic, but unfortunately, I just feel like this figure misses the mark, unfortunately. So with that out of the way, guys, let's actually get him compared to other figures you may have in your collection. And so here we have Armored Batman posed next to a Marvel Legends Cyclops and a DC Multiverse Superman. Here we have Armored Batman posed next to a WWE Elite Scale figure and a Mezco 1/12 Collective Popeye the Sailor Man. Here we have Armored Batman posed next to a Lightning Collection White Ranger and a Star Wars Black Series Mandalorian. And finally, here we do have the McFarlane Dark Knight Returns Armored Batman posed next to the Mattel Multiverse Dark Knight Returns Armored Batman. So with the comparisons out of the way, let's actually run through his articulation, and that's probably where this figure falls apart. At least on mine. Mine does suffer from a lot of quality control issues. As far as the head goes, he does have really good head movement. He can look up. Can't really look down because of how his head butts up against his armor, so you're really only going to get upwards movement, forward movement, and some slight head tilt. And his head does turn all the way around, although, as you can see, once you get to a certain point, the armor does start working against itself, and you're either going to get it wedged in the collar piece so it can't move, or it's going to be rotating at an angle, so do be aware of that his head movement is going to be a little bit limited. So first issue I do have is the looseness on the shoulder joints. Now, this Batman does have ball joints in the shoulder, which does allow his arm to pivot up, pivot down, go back and forward, so really nice range there. But unfortunately, the arm is relatively loose, and it's not just the left arm. Both arms are relatively loose. Like, you don't need to do much to get them to move. And like I said, I don't know if that's a universal issue, but it is something to note on mine. It does prevent the arm from standing out all the way, so if yours is affected by that, let me know down in the comments. Arm only goes out to the side about that far, and it would go out further because the pauldrons are softer plastic. Let's see, yeah, they do go out all the way horizontally, so I do like that. But if you try pushing it too far, pops the arm right out of the socket. So keep that in mind when posing the figure, that how you pose the arm could determine if the arm pops out of socket. And there wasn't even a click in that, so yeah, there might be something damaged in my socket right there. But anyway, his arm does a full 360. Thankfully, the cape only flows on the back and it doesn't flow out, so you're not hindered at all. No bicep swivel on this Batman. Instead, we do have a rotation here at the elbow, as well as a single bend giving us less than 90 degrees, which is expected for armored Batman, but kind of wanted to see a little bit more. He does have a ball hinge at the wrist. If we can pull his hand off, you guys can see it a little bit better. It does move down and up, really tight on mine. It does rotate to give us in and out movement, so depending on what you guys want, depends on how that joint is going to be situated. We only get one joint in the abdomen, unfortunately, and that's right here at his waist. We don't get any mid-torso cuts, so it's really just lean back, neutral position, lean to the side, to the other side, rotate. So really limited in the torso articulation, which is surprisingly disappointing. Legs do go forward to about right there before they start kicking out to the side. They do go back quite a bit. Out to the side, not the best we've seen out of McFarlane. You can see that they want to fight against themselves, so that's about as far as you're going to get them to go, but that is respectable, to be quite honest. We have a little bit of a thigh swivel, so that does help with posing the figure. We have a double bend at the knee. Ooh, can't get that second joint to move. Let's see. Yeah, so double bend at the knee as I accidentally hit my camera. So really do like that. And interesting thing to note is that his shin guards are actually really soft plastic, and they do move around as you need them to do. Really interesting choice to have these soft plastic. I would have preferred them being hard plastic, but it is an interesting take on that. But anyway, moving on to probably my biggest gripe is the ankle articulation. There's nothing inherently wrong about it, but on mine it is very, very loose, going up and down, rotating. That makes this figure so hard to stand. And like I said, I don't know if it's my version only, which would mean I would just have to get another one and these problems would go away. But yeah, that is very rough on this figure, especially because most of the weight is right up here, and getting him to stand just right. You can see he wants to lean over. I want to like this figure, I really do. It's from my favorite graphic novel, but I honestly feel like there's more misses than hits here. But yeah, we do have your standard ball joint, which rotates, hinges up and down, forward facing pin for rocker ankle, and then we do get a generous toe hinge. So overall, Armored Batman here has some pretty okay articulation. It's not the best we've ever seen, but I do have the need to point out that we've seen better from bulkier characters, so there's really no excuse for how limited this figure's articulation is. So with that out of the way, you guys, let's actually get him posed for my final thoughts, and then we'll wrap up this review. And so here we have the McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse Armored Batman from The Dark Knight Returns posed for my final thoughts. And overall, I'm going to be 100% honest with you guys. I'm a little bit disappointed by this figure. I know that I'm a huge fan of The Dark Knight Returns, and this is supposed to be one figure that I was really excited for, but I feel like McFarlane kind of dropped the ball on this particular version of Batman. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot of things to like about this figure sculpturally. There's so much contrasting textures that look really nice. I love the design of the cape. It's such a beautiful sculpt. The design on the armor, even though it's not my preferred look of the figure, I can still respect the amount of detail that goes into it, and I can't lie, this figure has a surprising amount of good detail, and that is superb. Now, unfortunately, if you're a Dark Knight Returns purist like I am, this figure kind of misses the mark in the design, and like I was saying, going over my thoughts on his detail, they were able to capture the Greg Capullo stuff and almost replicate that perfectly in action figure form. I don't know why McFarlane wasn't able to do that with Frank Miller's work. I don't know if they have some kind of beef with each other. They probably don't, because they made this figure. But I would have liked to see a more faithful adaptation of The Dark Knight Returns from McFarlane. I think that even though it's about 5 years old, Mattel still has the best Dark Knight Returns Armored Batman out on the market. Now that can change when the Mayfix one does hit the shelves, but this one kind of misses the mark on some points. I mean, this looks like a really awesome Armored Batman, but it looks more inspired by The Dark Knight Returns rather than actually being from The Dark Knight Returns, and that is probably my one and only criticism with the design of the figure, is that it's not a faithful representation, it's more of an adaptation. Now, that aside, I want to like this figure in terms of quality, but again, mine suffers from those really loose shoulders that does make posing him quite difficult, and the ankles. I actually have to have him on 2 separate display stages just to get him in this pose, because those ankles really do act up, and that is very unfortunate. Now, I am going to try to get another version of this figure just to see if maybe the quality control is just on mine. If it does turn out that it's a universal issue, then I can't really let that slide. That's something that McFarlane really needs to work on, because loose shoulders seems to be a reoccurring thing on his figures, and I don't want to see that being an issue in the future, which only time will tell. If I do get another version, we'll actually take a look at that and see if I still have the issues. But overall, if you're a fan of the McFarlane inspired Dark Knight Returns Batman, I think this is a really nice pickup. If you're a purist like me, this is going to be one that really confuses you. But if you want a really cool armored Batman, this is still a very good look for the figure. So I do recommend this Batman if you're a Batman fan, but I don't think he's a necessity for every Batman collector. With that being said, guys, I'm KingofDragons 5000. Don't forget to like this video, leave a comment, subscribe to my channel. Go ahead and check out all my other action figure reviews, as well as all my other DC Multiverse videos. Hopefully you find them informative. As always, if there's a figure you'd like to see me review, let me know down in the comments, and if it's in my collection, I'll gladly take a look at it. While you're at it, check out my Instagram account for new and exciting action figure photos, and as always, ring that bell to be notified every time I upload a video. Until next time, guys, I'll see you later. Take care, everyone.